we've taken what we call the fivefold ministry, which was not really that, but it's a description of the gifts that God's given to the body, and we've redefined them and redefined them and redefined them to suit the current need. Right. So coming out of the Reformation, pastor became everything. In the subsequent years, as we've gotten cessationist teaching permeating much of evangelical expression, certain gifts have fallen away, and so we're watching this be restored, but we haven't restored pastor to its proper role, which isn't a diminishment. You'll see.
Is it what?
It isn't a diminishment of
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
Right. It's actually bringing them into a place where the gifting that they've been given can do exactly what you're talking about. That counseling.
I totally.
That nurturing counseling. And there's a nurturing counseling and there's an exhortation counseling, and the most powerful that I've seen can actually do both.
I agree. Yeah.
And so I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it break free and be totally there. And then there are those who are gifted, like Laurie is, which brings a very holistic restoration to the spirit and the spiritual realm. And that includes deliverance, but it includes a number of other passages,
Would you classify your wife as a fivefold, maybe prophet, because of how she functions, or
her strongest gifting is in the prophetic?
Okay,
Her strongest gifting.
There's probably prophetic deliverance too. A lot of discerning.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I think to do deliverance, you gotta be very prophetic.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that
to discern. It's a lie to you,
And what's interesting is she naturally gathers around her intercessors.
Yeah,
naturally gathers around.
Intercessors gather around her.
Sure.
And they're surprisingly, whether they're awake to it at first or not, they're surprisingly prophetic.
Yeah.
So, it's just it's fascinating to watch function.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. The one probably underlying thing that I would always go with is if someone is determined to walk out freedom, they'll get it.
To walk out
I see it all the time.
Yeah. The pivotal moment for most people is when they realize that the love of God is real. They've heard about it and heard about it and heard about it, but when it touches them, all of a sudden this hunger rises up, and they'll do whatever it takes to walk out.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's really true. Yeah, because I think that a lot of what keeps people from even going to see somewhere, it's like, I'm a bad person, that shame, guilt thing. It's actually like awesome that God showed you this. but it goes to the other side, because a lot of people have been taught, like, oh, you don't need that, you're good. It actually takes a lot of courage to say, even though I've been a believer even 20 years, this is not working right. It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Especially if you're, even people like, oh, I got a good marriage. Well, it could be better.
Yeah.
Or you could have a better relationship with your team, whatever it is.
Right.
We're all, every experience, everything we've learned all affects how we view God and how we view each other. And if there's a little bit of the sand that could get better, why not make it better?
Right.
So
we work through for a lot of people. I can't remember if this is in the manual or not, but we talk about, we are equipped to tear down strongholds, but strongholds are ways of thinking.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they are harder to tear down if they're occupied.
No,
wait,
100%.
what does that mean? Yeah. To be occupied stronghold?
Okay, so when we're talking demonic, we're talking an unclean spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not moving beyond that for right now.
Okay.
There are certainly other things going on in the heavenlies We're not dealing with that. We're talking about an unclean spirit.
Yeah.
An unclean spirit is a parasitic spirit who is rabidly anti-human, but they long to be embodied.
Yeah.
What they do is, what they are able to do is to push a thought, and that's really the strength they have. They can push a thought. They don't
Push a thought, meaning like, give us a thought that we think is our own.
give you a thought, and if you embrace it, they'll reinforce it. So if you take a stronghold like racism, right? And you have that to work with because it's been in the family line for a period of time.
Yeah.
And that gets occupied by someone or something that's going to endlessly repeat lies about this race or that race, or you will find that stronghold becomes very, very much more entrenched.
Yeah.
And so when you try and address it, you'll get a lot more resistance than just someone who has a family of origin situation
100%.
that affects their thinking. But that can be corrected. That can be brought before the Lord. Scripture can be applied to it, and it'll collapse. It'll collapse as the Scripture is embraced, and then as you approach the Lord to say, Lord, what do you say about this? But if there's an interference and a blocking going on, that's what I mean by if that stronghold is actually occupied. So, it's a...
Stronghold. So, like, as in, the stronghold might be a belief system that's been passed down generationally.
Can be, yes.
But if the unclean spirit is still there, feeding them beliefs, is that what you're talking about? Where it's occupied, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So it can seize the opportunity to reinforce that.
Okay.
They can seize the opportunity to reinforce a lie that you decided based on a trauma you've gone through. They can
Very
seize,
common.
very common.
Vows.
A lot of the demonization that you will see is generated during childhood.
Yep.
During childhood. And it's fascinating because while there is an appropriate time to take someone and look for an entry point in a sin they committed. If you go through all of the deliverance ministry that Jesus did, he never once calls for repentance. He never once rebukes them. He treats them as prisoners of war, and he proclaims freedom for them.
He does say, "Go and sin no more."
Not to a demonized person.
That's true. Interesting.
Yeah. And so you're looking at a holistic view, though.
Yeah.
There are what do you say? There's fruit to sinning that you do have to deal with, and it will restrict you, but it's far more common. And there's certainly things you can dabble with and get into that will tangle you up spiritually. Promiscuity is a big one. You form an unrighteous soul tie with someone through physical intercourse. It can linger and tangle you up, and you have to deliberately pursue allowing God to shatter that and to restore you to what you should be. Closed system until you're in covenant with the right person. So, I'm getting far afield. Here, I will bring it back.
No,
so,
it's good.
What we're really talking about when we're talking about demonization on the common level. I'm not talking about someone who's a shaman and has cut knowledgeable deals with another entity.
Yeah.
I'm talking about someone who is demonized, troubled, and just can't go forward. What they're experiencing often, I can describe it from my own experience.
Yeah.
Because coming out of my childhood, I had levels of trauma that left me easy target for demonic. And the demonic set in my consciousness, and there was a steady stream of invective against me. You're stupid. You're a failure. You're ugly. If they knew you, they wouldn't like you. You're broken. You're not capable of that. Why are you even trying? Why'd you get up, Mark? Why are you alive? On and on and on, 24/7, 365.
Wow.
Right? And I carried that.
When do you remember hearing that? Since you were a little kid,
From about the time
almost when you can remember consciousness.
it really took hold during my parents' divorce. I think every child in a divorce situation feels that they're the cause of it. I had my dad actually said, "Son, you let me down. You did not protect your mom." We were in a homestead situation in Alaska, and I was not. I had been trained as number one son to protect the family, to do whatever. So at 9 years old, I'm carrying a high-powered rifle. I'm hunting. I'm doing what I need to do. Look at Jeremy's kids.
Yeah.
Your kids, young teenagers, young people, they're capable without understanding of doing what they're told to do. So when I heard that, it lodged, and it built out from there. And so from when my dad, I told you, he lost the custody fight but took the kids anyway, took us to New Mexico, brand new culture, and I'm totally an outsider. I have never played sports in my life, but now I'm in a regular public school. Where, do I get to play? I don't even know how to play. Yeah. So
Right.
on and on and on. You're a failure. You're worthless. You're great. So by the time I reached adulthood, that was steady drumbeat. So what I had is a set of beliefs that I had, one, been given in trauma, two, had worked out in my own thinking.
You're kind of classic though of socialization, with psychology, what I term socialization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So these things leave a vulnerability. The fact that there was a cult background in my family line.
Oh, you were like,
Made
you like checked off all the dots.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have walked through checking off all the dots.
Yeah.
And the road out of that was it was long.
It was what?
It was long. I had to process in this step and in that step and then reconciliation with my father and then and I got to a point where it was cleaned up except for this. I still had that whisper. And I'm a pastor at that point. I'm a vineyard pastor at that point. Leading a church. But just like you said, I can always learn something. So I go to other people's ministry training and whatever just to see how they did it. And the guy was talking about deliverance ministry, and one of the things he mentioned as a sign that you're demonized was hearing voices.
Wow.
I waited till break. I went up to him. He's a friend of mine now. I was like, "Errol, doesn't everybody?" He just burst out laughing. He said, "No." So let me pray for you.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Shut off like that. And it's never been
beautiful.
back. Never been back. The trash was taken out, and the rats had nothing to cling to, and it was gone. So
Yeah.
But that's the experience of someone who, in some area, is.
Now you were, but because I just the way I might, and that's why I talk about fundamentals of human need. Every way you were supposed to see God,
It was twisted.
at every level was twisted of what fundamentally gives us God.
Right.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
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 So
At every point,
every point
image of
where
the
you're supposed to learn about God, you're seeing a twisted representation of it. Yeah.
And that set up quite a change.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
when he takes you by the hand and walks you out of it, you can look back
you
at
also
Egypt
have
and
the,
say,
you also have
Yeah.
the classic posture though of what I would call, if I did a case study on someone who's walking out freedom, you like a lot of people like, "Oh, I'm good." Yeah, I'm good. But you were humble enough to go to the guy and like, "Hey, I got this going on."
Wait a minute, really?
Yeah.
So, and that's there are some things that can happen in trauma. In trauma,
Yeah.
that are simply decisions you've made and vows. A vow is a pledge that you make to yourself and to whoever's listening that it will be this way or it will never be that way.
Yeah.
Right? And those are very problematic. They can also be infected. They can be enforced. And because you have spoken in your authority, they can be enforced physically. So I prayed for a number of women who, as a a young teen vowed they would never have children,
Oh.
or vowed that they would never be a woman, and the pivotal point is renouncing that vow
Yeah.
and receiving from God what He intended,
Yeah.
and that corrects an amazing number of things. Infertility just being the beginning of it.
Wow.
So,
Well, the thing about, I learned vows usually make a lot of sense in the moment because they're self-protection.
exactly, it's
You
survival
know, yeah,
mechanism.
it really makes
Yeah.
sense. So I always like say, you weren't a bad person because you thought that, you know.
That's a good
A
point.
lot of like,
That's
like,
a really good point.
I mean, she's told it publicly, so I can say it. Probably like 6 months before I started dating my wife, she was seeing a counselor, and it's like the light just went off. I have a vow that men are unsafe.
Yeah. Well, that'll keep you alone for a long time.
And she's like, but the thing was like, wow, I thought I worked through that, and the light went off.
Yeah.
So it makes sense though, based upon your situation. Just on the outside, if you've ever seen an interview with Tom Brady, I was like, that's a vow that's quote unquote made him successful. You ever hear him talk about being drafted, falling behind? He's still talking about that. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's like, I was determined. I was like,
it rules him.
It rules him. It drives him. I think that's why he kept playing.
Yeah.
I'll show them.
Yeah.
I'll be the greatest quarterback ever.
Did that help him or destroy him? I don't know who that is.
Well, I think
Certainly.
on the outside, a lot of people that are successful in one dimension,
Yeah.
it's hurting other things in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's tormenting too, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to Brady, he talks about Patriot quarterback for all these years, won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers at like 42. Nobody's ever done that. But he talks about he hadn't had like strawberries or something in like 13 years because he didn't want sugar in his bones and stuff like.
Wow.
It rules him.
And
It
it leaves you one-dimensional. I
yeah,
like the way you said that.
yeah. So, and I don't know enough about, but people say it cost him his marriage. I don't know what's going on there, but so.
Yeah. I don't know.
I wonder if I have some things that are preventing me.
Maybe.
It might be, but it's not a bad thing. In a sense, like, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
That's why I don't really like, you got everything at salvation because it keeps people from exploring. And I think another, especially very common among charismatics, I understand why people say this because people have done crazy things in the name of God, but we shut people off from identifying with emotions. And emotions are God-given to identify often something that's wrong. When people are like, just trust the Lord, it's not about you. There's a dimension of truth to that, right? But most people have shut off their emotions that actually tell them something's wrong with them.
Yeah.
It's almost, I mean, there are oxymorons that we preach that are just foolishness. So
No, it's really true.
So to say you live from your heart, guard your heart with all diligence, because from it flow the issues of life. But don't feel your heart.
Right.
No, but that leads to another big point that I've been drilling in. It's a very, I think it keeps you from being a whole person. Is like, you can't, at least I can't. Bad flesh. It's like, no, your flesh is not bad.
That's right.
In fact, you're from the head to the heart. It's actually not even biblically true, I don't think.
Right.
Your heart is right here. Biblically, if you look at every reference to the heart, it's a seat of emotions. It's where you think. It's a faculty. There was never any separation.
No.
But if you think that there's a separation, now you're not in line with even how God thinks about your own body. But it's 100% true. I think emotions indicate to you when something's off.
Yeah.
They were given to you as a gift. Hey, stay away from that. Hey, back off. But when you're like, oh yeah, exactly, just go for it, you know.
None of that emotionalism.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
honestly, Robin, I don't think that even if there were something, and you would be surprised by it, I don't think you would be left in shame.
Mm.
You would just go,
That's right.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that. Because once you've got something set in your mind, you operate from it without usually calling it to consciousness. You don't run
Yeah.
through the list. You just go, oh yeah, I know what to do here.
Right.
I know how to act here. And you don't even say it consciously to yourself. You just, oh,
That's right.
right? And so exploring some of it, that would be really, it would be a brave move, but it would, I guarantee it would be a fruitful move.
Mm.
So.
Can we do some of that on the trip?
No, I think it's a wonderful. How I describe my inner life is I don't wake up every day trying to find out what's wrong with me,
Yeah.
but I do say, John 16 is huge to me. You're the Spirit of truth, and what I don't know, I don't know. So I'm asking you now to show me any little thought, any big whatever it is. I would just start there.
Yeah.
You'll be amazed when it begins to come to the surface.
Yeah, I have been asking for that type of thing, and there have been, I forget what they were now, but like after I started asking that, a couple of people gave me some feedback that, like unsolicited feedback. I was like, yes, this is an answer to prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I were you, I mean, it would be wonderful to do some of this on the trip, but if I were you, I would look for a better environment, more private, because a lot of this interaction is really between you and the Lord. You know, that's really where things get cleared up.
Yeah.
Obviously, Laurie is there. One thing you will get on this trip, and the one thing you will hear is like this conversation, other places, and I'm going to do a little bit of a walkthrough on Thursday, just to kind of understand ahead of time going into it what you're really looking at, and not to be blindsided. You know, you don't want someone coming up and just doing some weird stuff and you don't know what's going on.
Right.
You don't know why.
Sure.
You should be aware and partnering with him, not just like an infant receiving whatever. You know. So